Welcome everyone to another beginner Bitcoin Q&A. I am joined tonight by Dennis Porter, and we will also be joined by BTC Sessions. Let me just make some mods. Making some
What's going on,
mods.
Berkey?
Not too much. I got my second
Busy day?
vaccine dose yesterday, so I'm a little
Oh.
zonked out and might have to tap out early. We'll see.
Yeah, no worries. I don't mind doing a short one today if you'd like. We can do rapid fire.
Yeah, I think we should try to keep it tight. We tend to we love talking to people about Bitcoin, so it's easy to go over. But we should try to get to as many questions, I think, as we can. Um, Let me just ping BTC sessions. For those of you who, there he is. Welcome, Ben. Let me mod
Hey, how's
you.
it going?
It's going well. So let me just do the quick opening spiel. Welcome everybody. This is Beginner Bitcoin Q&A, part of Cafe Bitcoin. We try to do this every Monday night, and as you can see tonight, I'm joined by Dennis Porter as well as BTC Sessions. Both two awesome guys, really, really well versed in the Bitcoin space. And if you don't know Ben's channel, check it out, BTC Sessions on YouTube. It is great. Before we get started, a couple housekeeping items. Please note that this is streaming to YouTube, so you can go back and listen to this again or share it with friends or whatever you want to do. You can find it at youtube.com/Swan Signal. That's where we're hosting all of the Cafe Bitcoin streams that we record for now, but I think we're going to start up a separate YouTube channel in the near future. And if you're new to Cafe Bitcoin, what is Cafe Bitcoin? Well, Cafe Bitcoin is the most active Bitcoin club on Clubhouse, and we do our best to educate and share knowledge as much as we can. We've got all sorts of rooms happening all the time. You can find more info at cafebitcoin.club. We have the full schedule of events there. We have rooms in all sorts of languages. We've got rooms in Spanish, French, German. Hold on, let me look at this. Portuguese, Arabic. We have a Bitcoin Pakistan event on Thursdays. We've got Bitcoin in German, in Turkish. On Sundays, we do Sunday Satoshi service, which is a lot of fun. People come and confess their shitcoin sins. But we won't get into that tonight. And on Wednesdays, we have something called the Lightning Lab, which is one of my favorite shows where a bunch of the folks who are building the Lightning Network, either at Lightning Labs or on other projects, they all come in and they share the latest updates on what they're working on, and they do a Q&A as well. And then, of course, on Monday nights, we do this beginner Bitcoin Q&A. So the way this works, we like to we do try to keep it kind of tight, but that doesn't always happen. But what we ask you to do is we bring one person up at a time. We ask you to have a Bitcoin question ready. Try to keep it more of a beginner question. Part of this whole event is, not everyone. We don't have time to answer everyone's questions, but there's definitely a learning element involved in just listening. So we'd like to keep everything relatively beginner. On Thursdays, Dennis actually does a show called Deep Dive with Bitcoin Experts. Dennis, before we kick off, you want to tell everyone what's happening Thursday?
Yeah, Thursday we are going to have a debate with Jimmy Song, JC Crown. Those will be the main two people on one side, and then there's going to be Joe and Mike Kelly on the other side, and we're going to be debating the empty block attack. Good guy, biker down in the audience. You see him right there with the blue eyes. He's on the top row, is also going to be helping out as well. There will be a ton of people there. But we're basically going to be debating the empty block attack, which is a theoretical attack on Bitcoin that some people that don't like Bitcoin security model, they think it's a big vulnerability, but we're just going to talk about it. Jimmy Song recently wrote a paper about it, so we're super pumped about it, but it's going to be Wednesday at 1 p.m. Pacific time. Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. If you're interested in that, just follow me or follow Cafe Bitcoin. It'll show up in your hallway.
Awesome. Yes, and that brings me to the final point. If you're not part of Cafe Bitcoin, you can join it by clicking on Cafe Bitcoin at the top left. As I said, we have all these events going, so if you follow the club or join the club, you'll get notified or you'll see the rooms pop up in the hallway. And before we get going, if you wouldn't mind, click that plus sign at the bottom right and invite anyone you think who might enjoy this room, might want to learn about Bitcoin, someone who hates Bitcoin, whatever. Just invite them. All right. In order to make this work, we need to have some hands raised. We've only got one raised right now. So, Elaine, come on up to the stage and let us know your Bitcoin question. Elaine, welcome.
Hey.
How you doing tonight? Hello.
Hello, Elaine.
Thanks.
Oh
You
no,
guys hear me properly?
Elaine, your audio is well, it's horrible to be perfectly honest.
Sorry. Because you guys were acting on my side. But my question is, when we saw using Ethereum and with Elon Musk tweeting like 2 weeks ago, don't DeFi, do you think he also made a large sum investment to Ethereum to stay in the game?
I don't think so personally. I think Elon likes to troll people. I think every time he tweets about Doge, he actually thinks it's a joke. But I think we will leave that there for tonight. But let's try to avoid questions. One about other cryptocurrencies. If you want to ask about them in relation to Bitcoin, if you're new, that's totally okay. We're happy to answer them. And then also one other thing we asked you not to ask, and Elaine, you didn't do this, but people always do this. Is we do not know if Bitcoin's price will go up or down tomorrow, so don't ask us. I think myself, Dennis, and BTC Sessions believe in the long term Bitcoin is going up, but we do not have a crystal ball. If we did, we would be on a beach in Bali right now.
Yeah, I think I agree with Brecky. When it comes to Elon Musk, look at his words and look at his actions. His words are all over the place, but Bitcoin is still the only asset that he's bought in the crypto space. So I would stick to buying Bitcoin. I wouldn't worry too much about what he tweets about. He's very big on clout chasing, so stick to what he's done and not what he says.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would just say there's a good quote: "Don't tell me what you think. Show me what's in your portfolio." And if you look at those two things, they're starkly different.
And just a follow-up question. I mean, can I ask about how you guys feel about Visa and Ethereum? I mean, for all we know, MasterCard will be buying up like Cardano or something. I don't know.
The Visa announcement, as far as I know, has to do with settling stable coins or using stable coins as a. I haven't read the full story, but seems to be using a stable coin that can be actually used. Sure, though they're currently using it on Ethereum, it can be used really on anything. If they wanted to, they could do it on Liquid Network, on Bitcoin, or whatever they want, but basically it's just an equivalent of the US dollar. So it's funny because in a lot of the coverage about it, nobody really is going big and getting excited about the Ethereum aspect of it. They're just saying, oh, cool, we've got a stable coin, and kind of broadly relating that to Bitcoin and cryptocurrency in general. I don't think it's that big of a deal.
Among Bitcoiners, there isn't really a bull case for Ethereum. Even if we're just talking price here, I don't see a reason why any value would ever accrue to the base layer of Ethereum. Stable coins are something totally different. I wanted to quickly welcome Mags. Mags, you may not know this, but I've invited you up here to help answer questions. You don't have to, but if you've got some free time, we'd love to have you up on stage here with us.
Thanks. I'll hang out, and if something relevant comes up, I'll join in.
So Mags is a mining expert, folks. If you have mining questions, let's ask those. All right, Elaine. I hope we've answered your question somewhat. We're going to send you back down, and we are going to bring someone else up.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Oh, before
you
you go, actually, I'm going to be posting Dennis's show from last week, in which he and many others talk about why Ethereum is broken. So you'll be able to find that on the Swan Bitcoin YouTube channel probably by the end of tonight. So if you're curious about Ethereum and why we are so bearish on it, I would urge you to check out that show.
Got it.
All righty. Who's coming up? Harpreet Wasan, come on up to the stage. Let us know your Bitcoin question.
Hey guys, I had a quick question. I'm new to the Bitcoin space, and right now I'm seeing Bitcoin rising to like 50 grand plus. Any platforms where we can buy partial Bitcoins, or has to be like one Bitcoin at a time? That's really helpful.
Yes. So you do not have to buy an entire Bitcoin. Bitcoins are very divisible. You can think of it a little bit like a dollar has 100 cents. A Bitcoin has 100 million Satoshis or sats in it. And yeah, you can go and buy any portion of the Bitcoin, as small as 1 sat, although you may know it's not super efficient to do it that way. But yeah, you can buy half a Bitcoin, a 1/1000th of a Bitcoin, 1/10,000th of a Bitcoin. You can buy $5 worth of Bitcoin, $10. You can do really whatever you please. So every platform that you are on, it will likely, like, you're never going to find a place that forces you to buy a full Bitcoin. So yeah, absolutely, you can start very small and start stacking sats like that.
Harpreet, also, if I'm not sure where you're located, but if you're looking for recommendations for an on-ramp, if you let us know what country you're in, we can probably help out.
I'm currently I'm New York based, so in the US. So I just want
to. The one state that's actually difficult in the US. So New York, it depends what you're looking for. There are a couple of bigger exchanges. Like if you're looking for a trading interface, I think Kraken and Gemini are there. I work for a company called Swan Bitcoin, and so I'm a little biased here, but I love Swan, and we are available in New York for a sort of retail interface and one that allows you to buy Bitcoin automatically. Kind of set it and forget it. I highly recommend it, and we actually have fees that are like up to 80% less than Coinbase. So I don't want to make this a Swan show, but feel free to shoot me a message if you're interested on Twitter or something. I can send you more info.
Thanks. Does it really help if you're working in New York and you're living in Jersey? Does that really add on, or it's just the same for both the states?
Oh, interesting. If you're in New Jersey, like if that's where your residence is, and I guess where your bank account is, I think all that matters is where you live. Then your options are definitely you probably have more options. I'm actually not sure if Cash App works in New York. I imagine they do. I just like to tell people to avoid Coinbase these days. They just have terrible customer service, and frankly, I don't think they act in the best interest of Bitcoin. But otherwise, if you're in New Jersey, you have a lot of options.
Thanks, Ben. I'll follow up with you on the side. Thank you, guys.
Cheers. Thank you, Harpreet. Dennis, would you mind picking someone from the audience with their hands raised?
Let's do it. Okay, we've got Melanie Knight. Looks like I'm going to be picking you. Melanie, why don't you come up to the stage and tell us a fun fact about yourself and give us your Bitcoin question.
All right, we usually, this is optional, but if you'd like, you can come up and share a interesting fact about yourself, and then ask us a question.
All righty. My name's Melanie. I'm from New Mexico. I don't know if it's so interesting, but I moved back to New Mexico from Austin, Texas, not too long ago in order to vote for my daughter who was running for a judge position. So it was pretty exciting.
Very cool. That's a cool fact.
Yeah, whatever. I have a question.
Shoot.
Okay, I'm sorry. This is my first time doing this on Clubhouse, so
no worries.
Alrighty, so I have a Swan account, and I'm new to the whole thing, the whole Bitcoin thing. And I've never moved from cold storage into a wallet. And what I want to do is move from cold storage into a wallet that's paying interest as well. But I need step-by-step instructions on how to do that, because everything I start out to do, I end up getting scared by the process. So real new here, it just...
No worries. So let me just ask, because I think you're unintentionally mixing up a few terms there. Is your Bitcoin currently with Swan's custodian? You haven't moved it at all?
No, I haven't moved it.
Got it. Okay, so just to clarify things for you and for anyone else in the audience, cold storage is where you could transfer your Bitcoin from Swan. So right now, right now it's in a custodial account with Prime Trust. Cold storage is basically a way of storing your Bitcoin in which there's no access. It doesn't have any access to the internet, so no one could hack it essentially without getting into too many details. Now, you were talking about like an interest account. I'm assuming maybe you're talking about like a BlockFi or something like that. Basically, the process with Swan is pretty easy, and this applies to any exchange for the most part. you would get the Bitcoin address that you want to send it to. This would either be the address, your cold storage address, and we can talk about how to get that later, or let's say the deposit address from a BlockFi or somewhere else. Real quick, personally, I don't love interest earning services generally, because I don't think they provide enough interest, but that's a whole nother story. But that being said, that's pretty easy to do. So let's say you signed up for an account somewhere and you wanted to transfer Bitcoin to it. Generally, there's what's called a receiving address that they provide you, and then you would copy and paste into the withdrawal form in Swan, where it says, like enter the address that you'd like to send the Bitcoin to. You'll double, triple, quadruple check it to make sure the address is correct, because there is no going back from a Bitcoin transaction once it's been sent. And then you would just send it. Now, in terms of kind of more of the nitty gritty stuff, if you want to learn more about it in terms of how it actually works at Swan, I would just direct you to our customer support team, and they're fantastic, and they'll definitely walk you through every aspect of doing that. And you can just do that at swanbitcoin.com/support.
I'll just tag in if I could
Yep.
too, really quick. If you're looking for some step-by-step, literally walk you through how to use a Bitcoin wallet, assuming again that you just have your Bitcoin still sitting with Swan and you want to get it into your own custody. That tends to be kind of the second step after you bought your first Bitcoins, is learning how to get it into your own wallet. And so I've done a bunch of different videos on different wallets and ways to store it. You're probably looking for something long term, to store it and safely offline so nobody can get at it. So you're probably looking at a dedicated device that you could purchase, which is like a little vault to store your Bitcoin in. And so probably something like a Ledger or a Trezor, Trezor. Those are two options that are great, and some of the more user-friendly, noob-friendly options for people. And I have videos on those. So if you go on YouTube and search BTC Sessions Ledger or BTC Sessions Trezor, you'll find step-by-step stuff for you there.
I would also add, if you're not sure like which wallet is right for you, we have an article on Swan's site as well. It's just swanbitcoin.com/wallets. But then I think a good way to do this might be to read that article and then go watch Ben's videos, because they're fantastic. And he's held my hand through so many different wallet setups. And I've never even met the guy. It's kind of weird.
I've held your hand other times too.
So the Bitcoin session ledger is what I should watch.
Yeah, you can just on YouTube just search BTC Sessions, not Bitcoin Sessions, but BTC Sessions, and then Ledger along with that, or Trezor, either one.
You could also get there, I think, Ben, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you click on BTC Sessions avatar picture here, and then look at his full profile, there's a link to his Twitter, and I think the link to your YouTube is there, no?
Yeah, you can see it, just youtube.com/BTC Sessions. And there's even a playlist if you just scroll down that says getting started, and there'll be tons of useful videos there.
Okay, so we're talking about like what I'm saying I want to do, go into an interest paying app. I'm talking about 3 steps here. I have to get it from Swan into a wallet, and then from the wallet I can do the other.
No, actually, you wouldn't have to do that intermediary step. So if you have an account open somewhere else, BlockFi, for example, you could withdraw it directly from Swan to that other to that interest account if you wanted to.
Okay. Well, I've done all. I've read the post on Swan about how, finding the correct wallet for yourself and all that, but then it just gets complicated. I just go back to not doing anything.
Yeah, it honestly, it takes a while. It took me I don't know how long to wrap my head around all this. Something I would also recommend is we give away a free book. It's swanbitcoin.com/free book. And it's a book called Inventing Bitcoin, and it walks you. It's only like a 2 or 3 hour read, and it kind of walks you through how Bitcoin works at many different levels. And it's a beginner friendly book. You don't have to know how to code or anything, but it'll really help you understand, sending transactions and wallets and what all these different things are, to kind of give you more perspective on it. The other thing I'd like to tell people is that, if you're new to actually using the Bitcoin network or withdrawing Bitcoin from one website and sending it to another service or to your own wallet, you don't have to do it all at once. I think I made this mistake. I would just like YOLO and send like all the Bitcoin from one place to another. But if you're, and then like sit there sweating to make sure it got there. But if you're worried and it's like you're sending Bitcoin for the first time, you can do what's called a scout transaction. Send $20 worth of Bitcoin. You might have to pay a little bit more of a fee. Although with Swan, we're not charging withdrawal fees at all, or network fees. But you can send, a little bit and make sure it gets there. And then when you're comfortable, you can send the full amount. So just something to keep in mind. And I would say,
Okay.
I would say also, if you're withdrawing from Swan, again, feel free to hit up support, and they'll definitely make sure, if you're about to press a button and you're not sure, talk to them and they'll reassure you and make sure you're doing the right thing.
Thank you. You've been very helpful. And yes, I will get back on this because I keep feeling like I'm just letting it sit and not doing anything. And I was going to do, thank you for the advice, I was going to do a small amount at first to make sure I don't screw it up.
Awesome. Thank you, Melanie. We appreciate the questions, and come back sometime. We do this every Monday.
I will. Thank you so much.
Cheers. All right, Benny, will you choose someone while I send Melanie back down?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's take a look here. Since it's a popular name as of late, let's get Nick up here.
Nice shades,
All
Nick.
right, Nick, when you get up here, any interesting fact about yourself and your Bitcoin question?
Yeah, interesting fact. I moved to Dubai 2 years ago, and just awaiting deportation.
Deportation.
Apparently, there's some things you're not supposed to do here. I don't know, but
oh no.
I'm headed back to the good old USA, and honestly, I'm bullish on Bitcoin, but very ignorant, I guess. And because of Brecky and others, I found Swan. That last question just got me thinking, like, I mean, what is the advantage, or why would I not just leave it in your custodial account for now? What is the advantage of doing anything at this moment?
Yeah, I'll dive in there really quick. So there's a saying in Bitcoin, and the saying is not your keys, not your coins. And so a Bitcoin wallet is basically another way of saying it's the keys to your money. And when you leave it with a custodian, even Swan, Swan, I trust with, I think they're great and they're awesome. But the problem is that any centralized entity holding anybody's coins is a security hole, right? And it becomes a honeypot. The amount of effort that it takes to target an individual and try to, hack their computer and get access to those keys, the payout there is much lower than an entity that holds funds for potentially tens of thousands of people. And so we've seen exchanges in the past go down. I'm in Canada, and literally the largest exchange in the entire country ended up being basically empty. Hundreds of millions of dollars gone. And it's been happening for years. Now, I'd like to think that exchanges are getting better at security, but the big problem is that you never really fully know. And the name of the game in Bitcoin is don't trust, verify. So it's just good habit, in my opinion, to move towards custodying your own Bitcoin. But like Brecky was saying, you don't have to do it right off the bat. You can learn and take baby steps and send smaller amounts of Bitcoin first until you feel comfortable, and then gradually move up to having all of your Bitcoin self-custodied. So, it's a learning process. Work your way there, but don't worry if you can't do it like the first day that you get Bitcoin.
Okay.
There's a lot of people say this, but sometimes, I mean, there is always the risk of getting hacked or whatever, but like a lot of the times you can be your own worst enemy when it comes to securing your Bitcoin, which is why education is so important. Like one of the major value props of Bitcoin, like Ben was saying, is that, for the first time, you can actually custody the asset on your own. Even, yes, you can go out and buy physical gold, but most people don't even do that. They buy gold certificates, which is, a claim to gold, maybe. And with Bitcoin, it's yours. And so what a lot of Bitcoiners will say is that, if you're not practicing self custody, you're not taking advantage of what Bitcoin offers to the fullest extent. Now, that being said, like, again, it depends on who you are. Like what I tell people, I'm not as militant about this, but if it's safer with a custodian for now, then your Bitcoin should be wherever it's safest. You don't want to lose your Bitcoin. At Swan, we urge everyone to learn and to set up automatic withdrawals. We want you to practice self custody. We try to make it as easy as possible, but we also recognize that there is a learning curve and there is risk if you don't know what you're doing. So we don't want people to do it when they're not ready. And there was one other thing I was going to say and I just forgot. Darn it! What was it? I forgot. Anyway, Dennis, Mags, anything you'd like to add while I try to remember what I was going to say?
No, I think you guys nailed it really well. It really comes down to just making sure that you're protecting this thing that is so valuable, and you never know what's going to happen in the future with these exchanges. You also don't know, someone could hack into your account. So it provides you a level of security and safety that you can't be seen anywhere else. And I think that BTC sessions really nailed it when it comes to that.
I remembered.
One thing to add
sorry,
to that.
Go for it, Max.
Yeah, so sometimes maybe you set up an account and you throw on, let's say, $500, and maybe it's not that much, and you're just learning, so and trying to stay up to date. And I get it, life gets busy. Don't forget that in a bull market like right now, if the market moves, you might actually end up having $2,000 on there, and that exposes you to more risk because price has gone up. So sometimes, like, occasionally it's like checking on this exchange where I had like $400 maybe 3 years ago, which is now a lot more. And oh crap, I need to secure that because it's on some shady Chinese exchange. Just like a reminder to, kind of check under your what is it, couch cushions. This happens in a bull market. So sometimes you're like, oh, okay, I'm not that exposed, but actually, yeah, you might end up exposed if the market moves. That's just one point.
That's happened to me. I have Lightning wallets on my phone now that are worth so much. I need to figure out how to get it off.
I know. I had like $100 and now it's like 800, and it's like, oh crap, I really need to back this up. And it's kind of nice feeling, but and I'm not saying it to like, oh wow, look at how great we are. It's more like it actually does happen.
Unlike the US dollar, which is designed. Go for it.
I was just going to really quickly say, also just consider withdrawal limits, because when you're sitting on an exchange and you've gotten a certain amount that is within withdrawal limits for daily or weekly or whatever, and you get into a bull market and crazy stuff happens and all of a sudden it's worth 20 times as much, it may take you a very long time to get all of that Bitcoin into your custody day by day, where you were expecting to be able to do it in a single transaction. That may not be possible.
That's a very good
limits
point.
may change.
Yeah,
today I just found, again, looking at couch cushions, the only thing I had a shit coin that I totally forgot about. I'm like, hey, $400. I put it on an exchange. It's like only one exchange that's trading it short, and the limit on that exchange was $1,000. It's like nothing.
Yeah, with Cash App, I know a number of people who've were exclusively buying on Cash App, and they have like a $2,000 a week limit to withdraw, something like that. But anyway, quick Swan chill. We don't have any withdrawal limits, and also one other quick fact. I don't know if anyone else is doing this. I'd be curious to learn. But because we use a separate custodian, a licensed custodian, Prime Trust, Swan doesn't actually have access to your Bitcoin. So to compare that to like Coinbase, for example, Coinbase custodies that Bitcoin, they control it. We don't. So you have an account that's in your name. It's like having a bank account almost at Prime Trust. So it is 100% yours. It's not commingled with any other funds. So slight difference from, how others do it.
And last point on exchanges. So I'm the bankruptcy inspector for the Quadriga bankruptcy. Just it's almost $2 billion that was lost through Quadriga. I'm just looking at it. I have on my Delta app. I just like to keep tabs on where we're at. So, and this is money that even once the distribution happens for Quadriga, people are just going to get cash back. It's a small amount that was recovered. It's just, it's better not to be in that situation, especially if you have, a certain amount of money that you have on there. It's good to learn how to take it off. It's just, we've been there. Many of us have, lost for one reason or another. It's really hard, especially if it's almost, I want to say it's not fully impossible, because there are some exchanges that are non-custodial, so you immediately get the Bitcoin delivered to you. But a lot of times, we might leave something on an exchange because you put a limit order on. And so don't feel bad if you're like, oh crap, they say never do it. It's like, no, okay, sometimes, maybe you want to put a limit order because you need to cash out or put money, or you want to buy the dip or something. It's just make sure you do the due diligence and protect yourself.
It's counterparty risk at the end of the day. And I think that exists in any form. And something I was going to say before is to kind of tack on to what Mags was saying, is that, like unlike the dollar, which is designed to go down in value, Bitcoin, I wouldn't say it's designed to go up in value, but it tends to go up in value. And we all think it's
designed to pump forever.
Yes, I didn't want to say that, but yes, it's designed to pump forever. So it's slightly different. All right, Nick, how do we do?
Great. I mean, listen, you guys nailed everything. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us today. We're going to send you down, and I'm going to put Mags on the spot and ask her to pick someone with their hand raised and bring them up.
I'm going to bring up Cole.
Cole, come on down.
All righty. Hey, how's everybody doing?
We're doing
Great.
good.
I had a question on Kobo Vault.
I think Ben's your man.
Yeah, well,
yeah, man.
Videos. So I like it. I guess my only reservation is, and I think you touched on it, is the connection with China. And I think that was only through their app that they were sending data. So I was just looking for some clarification on that.
Yeah. So and actually they've updated their terms of service and around the privacy statement, but it has to do with their dedicated app that
hey Ben,
is
sorry,
used.
Real quick, can you give a little context to the question for everyone else who's listening?
Oh yeah, okay. So the Kobo Vault is a Bitcoin hardware wallet that allows you to secure your Bitcoin offline, and it uses something called air gapping, which means you just never plug it into anything internet connected. So the keys reside on this device, and you sign and approve transactions through QR codes. So it's basically just a way of keeping the keys to your money disconnected from the internet. Some people had some questions about the privacy, or some privacy concerns around their terms of service and data collection. When they put together that terms of service, it was just a very generalized one that they kind of put together. But as people were concerned, myself included, we raised some questions about it. They've since changed that around, but in the end, it only applies to the dedicated mobile app that you would pair with the device, which you do not have to use. And I actually don't. I use a combination of things. I tend to use Blue Wallet with it, which works quite well with the QR codes. And you can connect Blue Wallet to your own node if you're getting advanced and really privacy focused. I also use it with Wasabi Wallet. I use it with, I basically used it with just about every combination of anything you can use it with, and you can use it with a lot of different wallets. So I quite enjoy it. I think it's a great option, and it's actually a pretty user-friendly option when it comes to having the added security of air-gapped transactions. So if that's what you're looking at it for, then yeah, man, I think it's a pretty solid choice.
Yeah, no, I use it with Electrum, but I was just curious on, as I read more about it, if my concerns were, I feel like they were addressed when I read more on what you said, and I think there was like a Twitter response from the owner of Kobo Vault. So I was just checking.
Yeah. Lishan he's awesome. So you can ping him on Twitter anytime. I don't know what he does in terms of like sleep, but he'll just get back to you so fast.
Nice. I had a quick question on Swan as well.
Yep, go for it.
So I've got a Swan account. I've got it dollar cost averaging for my kids, actually, for my 6, 5, and 3-year-old. Is there a way to set up multiple accounts with a single user, or would I have to have open 3 different accounts and go through the whole process?
We get this request all the time. It's in our pipeline to be able to do sub accounts, but I don't have any info on when that'll be available. But send a message to support and tell them. I'll tell the team also.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, right now I'm just putting it in, and then I'll divide it up 3 ways later. But just curious.
For sure. Yep, I'd like to be able to do that too. So it's coming.
I appreciate it. That's all I have, gentlemen and ladies.
All right, thank you, Cole. I'm going to send
you.
you down, and I'm going to choose someone. Who am I going to choose? Anybody have laser eyes? No laser eyes. All right. Stefan Robinson, come on up. Tell us about your photo. Are you a football player?
My name's Stefan, as you already know. I guess something about me. I play football in college right now, so
Nice. Very cool.
yeah. It's kind of 2 questions, really. One question is, I know Bitcoin was like the first of its kind or whatever, so that makes it's like leader among other cryptocurrencies. But what makes it better than other upcoming or other new currencies?
Yeah, I can tag in. So the main thing with Bitcoin is how sure you are that the underlying protocol is going to function as promised. And so what are the promises of Bitcoin? Bitcoin promises to be hard money, that it cannot be debased. So you can't just arbitrarily print more of it. We know there's a limit, 21 million coins. We know that it is meant to be censorship resistant and immutable. Basically hard money. And so the question becomes, how sure are we of those promises? And that's kind of the key, because a lot of other coins try to make similar or even grander promises, but then tack on additional, what they would say are features. But those features come with massive trade-offs, typically at the expense of how sure you are that protocol is actually going to execute as promised. And so I try to look at how easy is it for an individual to do something that is called running a node. And a node basically allows you to host an entire copy of all Bitcoin transactions that have ever happened and the rule set that governs the network. And if you do this, then nobody can change Bitcoin on you without your permission. And so it kind of becomes a question of what protocols that are also promising sound money allow me to do this easily, and what protocols are basically am I guaranteed are not going to throw some non-backwards compatible changes into the mix and change the underlying foundation of how it works. And when I look across the board, I just don't see that anywhere except Bitcoin. All of them make these trade-offs to try and be, the next big thing, but they don't realize that literally it's the promise of hard money that you can't fuck with that is what makes Bitcoin great, and they all keep on, for lack of a better term, getting fucked with.
Got you. And my last question is, obviously, we have inflation, like, because we're printing so much money or whatever. So, like, in your guys' opinion, like, how far down the road until, in your guys' opinion, like, Bitcoin becomes, more of what the masses are using, or, what I'm saying? Because I feel like it's very popular right now, but, like, we have older generations or people like that. They're like, this is just a fad or something like that. So, like, when do you think Bitcoin will?
For sure, man.
Yeah.
So real quick, anecdotally speaking, like, at Swan, most of our customers are actually older. People from let's say older generations, they get it. My grandma, for example, she's too old to be using Bitcoin. Although I think nobody's too old to be using Bitcoin. But she remembers stories of hyperinflation in other countries. Her family experienced. Like people understand what the promise of sound money that can't be messed with, like Ben was saying before. Now, in terms of like when do we hit mass adoption, that kind of thing, I think it really depends on what you mean by using Bitcoin. For some people, mass adoption is going out and buying coffee with Bitcoin. For others, like for me, um, one of the most important aspects of Bitcoin is hedging against inflation, protecting against inflation. Now, I view Bitcoin as my unit of account. Like to me, Bitcoin is money. But if Bitcoin helps me preserve my efforts, my wealth, in the coming years as governments keep printing, like that's enough for me. And I think you have to kind of understand that Bitcoin is undergoing a process of monetization, and that using Bitcoin for like everyday expenditures is probably further down the line, almost at the end of the line in that monetization process. Because if you think about it, let's say you hold a bunch of Bitcoin and you hold a bunch of dollars. If one of those assets is going down in value, you're going to try to get rid of the one that's going down in value. So it makes more sense in the short term to be spending your dollars and saving in Bitcoin. Now, when do we get to a point where everyone in the world is understands the promise of Bitcoin and uses it? I think that's a much more difficult question. But if you look at sort of the rate of growth right now, it's I don't know if it's exactly exponential, but it's pretty wild right now. So to me, I would be surprised in the next, I don't know, 10, 20 years that we don't see, a large percentage of the world using Bitcoin in one form or another. I don't know if anybody wanted to add to that. But.
Yeah, I agree with Brecky there. I think you're just going to see that in order for the masses to adopt Bitcoin, it just needs a little bit more track time. There's just not enough history there for people to feel like they can trust it. So if you're here in this room and you're asking questions and you're trying to learn about Bitcoin and you're trying to buy Bitcoin, just remember that you're still very, very early. And the other thing about what's going on here, Stefan, is it's not so much of a technological revolution as it is a revolution in money. So for thousands of years, humans have had to deal with their governments printing and debasing their currencies. And for the first time in human history, we have a money that the government and the powerful and the elite cannot debase. So that's a very, very, very big innovation. And it's not about transaction speed or the smart contracts that people try to talk about. It's really about that. It's really about just being able to store your wealth in a form of money that the government can't inflate or debase.
Got you. That makes a ton of sense. Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Stefan. Much appreciated. Good luck with football. All right. Who's up? Mags, pull someone up. Put them on the field.
Sure. Let's take a look. Let's pull up a lady. Cat. Cat April.
Are you with us, Cat? Doesn't look like she's with us. All right, let's choose someone else and she can go after if she comes back.
Sure. Let's pull up. Here she is.
Sorry, guys. I'm blind, so I have to navigate with screen reader. It takes me a minute. I'm not used to Clubhouse.
Oh, no worries.
No worries. Welcome.
So thank you. The question I have is about Swan. I keep hearing about it, and I don't know that any of you can answer, but does anyone know if it is accessible with a screen reader? Because I do agree that Coinbase fees are a little ridiculous.
That is a great
question. Move away from it.
That is a very good question to which I do not know the answer. Can you tell me what it's called? Screen reader?
Screen reader. So more popular ones are, say, VoiceOver for Apple devices or JAWS for Windows devices. It's just called generally a screen reader because it reads what's going on with the screen to a blind person.
For sure. I'm gonna ping our support team because I want to know the answer to this. If you,
I just joined Lolly after listening to Satoshi's service, and I'm like, I can't even push the stack button.
Oh man, you got to hit them up too. I can send them a message also. If you want, 1 second. What's the best way? Do you use Twitter or no?
I haven't in a while. But
No worries. Well, if you'd like, or if anybody likes, you can always email me. My email is brecky@swanbitcoin.com.
okay,
And it's like Brecky, like breakfast, BREKKIE.
okay,
If you want to send me a reminder about this, I will definitely follow up, and I'm going to ask them right now. I don't think I'll
great.
be able to get you an answer right away.
That's fine, but thank you.
I wonder, Kat, eventually you might want to be a part of. I'm really pushing really hard for this gentleman named Dillian, and there's another gentleman named Randy to do a room for the visually impaired, and we're going to be talking about kind of the future of making it more accessible, because as I've heard, it's a huge problem to be able
Yeah,
to
I'm an
access.
accessibility analyst, so I deal with this all day long. And it's like in my free time, I just like to do what stuff I know is accessible.
Right. Well, that would be great. Then maybe you should. I don't know what the best way to get into contact with you. Maybe Brecky, if you could just kind of keep me in the loop with the email chain there.
Yeah, for sure. I'll loop
Because
you in.
if she's not using Twitter, but Randy's over there on Twitter, and Dillian is a PhD graduate. He just finished his PhD, and we're going to put a room together to talk
Well,
about.
I can check Twitter. Right now, my Twitter is accessibility, the number 4, all. I just
What's
got to
the
figure out
best
how
way
to log
get in
back
touch
in.
with you? Because within the last 2 weeks, you're the second person I've seen, I've come across that's asking these questions. And I used to work for government programs too, and I understand, just any kind of digital services can have challenges, and if there's rooms or things that our industry is sort of raising to the forefront, if there's ways to kind of boost that, I think we'd like to know, but also, to get in touch with people like you who are actually working to kind of help with those solutions and provide it. So if there's conversations that can be had that we can kind of better inform how to improve as an industry, I think, reaching out to you and just making sure that there is signal boosting for that would be awesome.
Yeah, it'd be great, because I know a lot of people in the Blind community as well. So I always like to say, hey, this is accessible. Go ahead, try this one over these other companies that I already know aren't. Because I've worked with, even government, EPA, I've worked with Target. I've been around and I've tested a lot. And it's just so frustrating when something as simple as a button isn't labeled correctly.
Yeah, what Max said though, what is the best way to get into contact with you? Because that way we can actually start rolling the ball on this, because we've heard from a lot of people, several people in fact, that this is a problem that needs a solution.
One quick thing also, if you're not comfortable sharing a contact info in a public forum like this, you can email me and I'll be able to connect you with everyone here.
I actually have an email that I don't check that often because it's spam. And if someone wants to contact me from there, I'll give them a good email.
Perfect.
All right. My spam one is R as in Ryan, K, S as in Sam, M as in Mike, W as in Will, at metrocast.net. Very old email. Keep it around for all that spam though. It's great.
Was that Metrocast?
Yep. metrocast.net.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be doing a room on this really soon. So I'm glad you came up here to speak about it, and I'll shoot you an email to get your real email.
Okay, great. That would be the best way to go about it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
And thank you for offering to host this. I think it's important, and maybe a lot of companies just forget because it's not on the forefront. So
yeah, most people don't think about it until they get that demand letter from the lawyer. That's usually when I come in. People are like, I'm getting sued. Help me.
And honestly, it only will help those companies if they offer that niche product. There's a lot of folks that might need it, whether visually impaired or even just the older generation,
even people with disabilities like dyslexia use screen readers to help hear what's going on. So it's not just the visually impaired. And I don't test just for visually impaired either. I test for all of the accessibility guidelines. So all learning disabilities, motor disabilities, all that stuff.
Oh Lord, I just realized how difficult it must be. For someone who's blind, sure, but for someone with dyslexia to check their private keys, oh man, that's gotta be terrible. It's like a string of numbers going on forever.
I know. I was thinking about that, about Cold Wallet. Aren't those going to be accessible? Probably not, but maybe some.
That's interesting. I wonder which ones would work. I don't know. We'll think about this too. Thank you, Kat. I appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
And welcome to Jimmy Song, who many of you may know, a well-known Bitcoin educator and a fan of cowboy hats. Jimmy, what happened to what cowboy hat are you on to now? Because I know you like to donate them to auctions.
I have several to begin with, but the one I have currently I bought with Will Cole when Bitcoin hit 10,000. So it's a beaver pelt rim with like with a straw top to make it sort of like not that hot during the summer, but still have water resistance because of the beaver pelt. So that's the one I've been wearing.
Oh, I like that. All right, I'm going to look into that. I've got a beaver hat as well, and it's hot as hell. I can only wear it sometimes. All right, Jimmy, since you're new, pull someone up from the audience who's got their hand raised, please, and let us know who you're choosing. Kat, thank you. We're going to send you back down.
There's only two. I chose Elkin. I have no idea, but he was first, so there we go.
Hi guys, how's it going? Thanks for hosting. I just have a quick question. What would you recommend? I guess I don't want you to use exact figures, but at what point should you start moving your Bitcoin into cold wallets? So a certain amount, or just is there a minimum that you think people should just do it at? I'm just wondering.
I think it's a comfort thing that's a little bit different with each person. I typically tell people, hey, if this amount of Bitcoin is more than you would feel comfortable walking around with cash in your pocket, then it's probably time to get a dedicated hardware device. So everybody has that moment where you got to, if you ever take out cash from a bank, for those that do carry cash anymore these days, if you've got it in your pocket and you feel a little bit uncomfortable, then that's about time you should probably start looking into getting a dedicated device. And even earlier, if you just want to be ahead of the curve and be prepared for when you do have enough Bitcoin that you deem it necessary.
Okay, yeah, I think I have to get on that then. Thanks, guys.
No worries.
Thank you, Elkin. We're going to send you down. I'm going to choose someone else. Jerome, you got the laser eyes, so you are coming up. Come on up, Jerome Dallas. Optionally, let us know an interesting fact about yourself and let us know your Bitcoin question.
Come on, Brecky. Haven't talked to you since Altspace. What's going on, Max?
Hey.
Haven't talked to the rest of you guys, but guys, my question is, where do you guys see the fusion between Bitcoin, blockchain, and virtual reality within the next 5 years?
Interesting. Well, I know Jimmy's going to have some thoughts on this. I have one thought. What I'm really interested in seeing, and I think some people are working on it. If not, it hopefully soon. I would like to see Bitcoin used as the in-game currency for video games, either traditional video games, VR. A lot of them will use a phone, like World of Warcraft has gold, but it's not really a currency. You can't really exchange it for anything. Like, I think it would be an incredible experiment to see one of these digital worlds where Bitcoin is the currency and it's not a walled garden of an economy. It's just part of the greater economy in one fashion or another. And I think giving people that option to use Bitcoin in these virtual worlds where they spend a lot of time would be very freeing and very interesting. So yeah, that's one thing. I know there's the NFT discussion that we could get into, which I don't really feel like getting into. If anybody else has any thoughts.
In terms of I think it would be very cool to see more kind of in-game Bitcoin via Lightning Network type stuff. And I think we're starting to see more of that proliferate. So that's cool. I think that, I guess that kind of plays into virtual reality. We're seeing more interesting now that Lightning is starting to proliferate more. We're seeing interesting things in the realm of making Bitcoin accessible and usable on interesting platforms like gaming, and more recently, podcasting, where you're seeing people can basically download a podcast and opt to support the creator by streaming sats to them minute by minute as they listen, which is a really cool use case. Now, I will say, you mentioned Bitcoin and blockchain. If you're, I'm not sure how new to the space or how early you kind of joined in, but back in must have been 2014, 15, 16, even 17. There was this kind of narrative of Bitcoin's old news, but blockchain, the underlying technology, is really interesting. Turns out that was kind of a load, and that it's because blockchain is just a piece of the puzzle that makes the innovation of Bitcoin possible. There's a lot more stuff that goes into it, and blockchain is by no means any sort of a silver bullet, and that's why basically every other cryptocurrency, it falls hideously short of Bitcoin, is because they don't have that magic mix of everything necessary to create a truly decentralized sound money that is immutable and censorship resistant. So in terms of blockchain, I think you're going to see probably plenty more attempts and plenty more failures to go along with them. But I think you'll see Bitcoin continue to proliferate and basically eat the world.
I will add, I am personally excited for some applications of of side chains like Liquid, for example. Like I bought a spaceship in Samson Mao's upcoming video game Infinite Fleet, but at the same time, like, I know what NFTs are, and I recognize that they're a gimmick, and that you don't really need a blockchain for these types of things. So it's kind of it's a weird world. I don't know. Jimmy, you feel like giving an overview of your thoughts on this?
I think you guys covered it pretty well. I don't think I need to say anything.
Fair.
Jimmy, I will say that Adam Back gifted me a hat token on the Liquid network, which I then used to purchase a hat. So perhaps if the Blockstream store adds cowboy hats, you'll be fully enticed by the B hat token.
Yeah, they do more baseball caps. It's Bull Bitcoin that does the cowboy hats. I have one of those, by the way. Very nice.
That's true. My former employer.
All right, Jerome, how'd we do?
So I definitely want to hear Dennis and Mag still as well. BTC sessions, really appreciate your point. I've been in the space since 2011, so I remember counterparty days, and NFTs kind of, the letters put together started around 2014, 2016. But I really think that, Bitcoin also kind of began the works of the trends that started NFTs. And, now with Lightning, I want to see where we go further with this space and with platforms, like gaming, in a sense, like Light Night and about a bunch of other Lightning games. I'm really curious where we can see Lightning and virtual reality integrating.
Yeah, I think the idea of sorry, I'll be quick. I absolutely think that the idea of using things like NFTs in a way where you're not trying to fleece somebody, but where you can just have something, a voucher that represents something that you can redeem it for. I think if it's not malicious and used in a way where it's like you're trying to gamble, then yeah, have at her.
Yeah, I don't like when it's used like it's some sort of investment opportunity, but I totally agree with Sessions that in some sort of centralized manner, on a video game platform, maybe virtual reality, that being able to buy cool things that are, you know, you could throw up in your virtual reality room or your video game if it's a specific weapon or piece of armor in a video game that has like an NFT that, you know, quasi says that you own that item. But the problem is that NFTs don't prove you own anything at all. That's really the problem with them, and that's how they're being advertised right now. Like they're being advertised as if they are property rights, and they're like the opposite of that. Sometimes I like to say that having an NFT is like owning the rights to a house that anybody can live in, and that's basically what's going on with some of these digital art. It's like anybody can take that piece of art and put it anywhere they want. You don't own it, you don't control it. The NFT doesn't give you property rights over that piece of digital art, and it doesn't give you property rights over any of the video game stuff, but it does work better in a centralized manner, so like a video game or a virtual reality world. But it's not an investment vehicle in my opinion at all.
Hey folks, I've got to tap out for a bit, but I'll still be in the room to continue the recording, so I'll be back in a bit.
All right, sounds good, Brecky. Okay, well, I guess we should. Jerome, did you feel like we fully answered your question there?
Absolutely, really enjoyed it. Would love to hear from Mag still. Haven't heard from you in a while, buddy. But
oh, I can throw one. It's interesting because I actually, on some points, I might disagree with you, Dennis. I think while most NFTs right now haven't conveyed that, I wouldn't be surprised to see at some point there would be some sort of property rights, whether that's loyalty, if it's truly decentralized, you know. So I'm coming from it from, you know, I use VR almost every Saturday, hang out with the Reckless VR crew. I'm a gamer, so I understand, and I think I'm still trying to fully understand NFTs, but from a gaming kind of scenario, I do see where it can, you know, play a factor in that. When it comes to concerns around longevity and kind of investments, like I'm cautious because, you know, I'm reminded of 2017 and ICOs and kind of mania, and I do worry a little bit about where that's headed. It does need to be balanced with, well, yeah, we've moved from an analog world to a digital world. And sometimes the pricing really comes out from, well, I really want to show off. So I have this one car out of 20 that's, you know, in the legacy world, how billionaires or millionaires used to kind of show that they own something. If I actually own, you know, one digital art, it's, yes, everybody can take a picture, but I'll always have the clout to say this one is truly mine. And some people just care about that part. And again, it's true that a lot of times, for example, NBA Top Shot, you don't actually really own anything there. And it's a centralized service. If the company, you know, decides to stop supporting it 50 years from now, it's not the same thing as you owning your own Bitcoin, you know, in terms of longevity. So there's a lot of kind of complex kind of parts to this discussion. That said, I'm loving to, you know, seeing the kind of innovation like currently on Bitcoin, whether it's kind of gaming, like late night and so forth. And the fact that, you know, people are looking to put it onto the most secure network. But I do think, you know, I like to just pay attention to what's happening. And if they start to do things like interoperability between different chains, you know, and it helps put people on a more secure network like Bitcoin in some ways, you know, I'm open to seeing what folks come up with to kind of help, you know, prevent people from losing money. But yeah, I think it's a complex kind of conversation, and having lived in VR and having, you know, being a gamer, I do have kind of an open mind, because I think, you know, as we move to this digital world, seeing what's possible in VR kind of makes you kind of appreciate the digital stuff a little more.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really hear anything that I disagreed with you there, Mags. The video game aspect and the VR aspect, I completely agree with as a gamer and someone that also uses VR. And my stepson regularly, you know, brags about the skins that he wears in the video games he plays. So I guess I didn't really hear anything that I disagree with you there.
I think it was the ownership that you own Squat, where it's like, well, maybe it depends. Like most cases, you're right. But I think there probably are some situations where you yourself own it if it's on something truly decentralized and secure, so it stays in perpetuity. But I don't know if Late Night is a good example of that, if you own a skin forever. But I think people do need to keep in mind, like, you're not buying, like, the NFT isn't the thing. It's the thing that shows you own the thing, right? It's more like the provenance.
Great points. I wish I could, I guess, compare and contrast more between Dennis and Mags, because that's a really valid point. And they both, Brecky and Mags, both know me from Altspace VR. I host VR events about educating people about crypto since 2018. But one of the things that I really never gotten down to is, I guess, drilling into the assets that you own versus what you don't own. I like to use that same point, Mags, where if you get a Top Shots card and Top Shots discontinues it, you don't really own anything anymore. But at the same time, you still do have your Top Shots on wax, right or wrong.
So I guess just in general, to me, to nail down the property rights thing, and maybe we should move on just because this is not super beginner anymore at this point. But I'll just say one last thing, and maybe Mags can, and then we can move on a little bit. But the last point I'd like to make is just that when it comes to these pieces of like digital art or digital goods, you're depending completely on a central authority to approve that you own the item. So it's not really property rights if you have to depend on a central authority to. It's not full property rights in that sense. Obviously, you could say it's like a spectrum. Like, we don't own our houses today. The government basically lets us, live with this idea that we own them, but they can take them from us at any time with eminent domain. So to me, it's not full property rights because you don't fully own it. Whereas with Bitcoin, you can 100% own it and prove it with your own node and fully audited and validated. And so that to me, I guess, is the difference. But Mags, maybe you want to comment a little more and we can move on.
No, I think that's kind of the great way to end it, where if you really want digital scarcity that's going to hang out for a long time, then by all means. But if it's a utility thing, like, hey, I really love this game and I'm going to buy the NFT because I live in this virtual world and all my friends are there and I want to have clout, then, it's to each their own, right? But if it's a long-term play and people are like, oh shit, this CryptoPunk just sold for whatever amount of money and I want to get in on that, that might not last for a long time.
Definitely.
Thank you. Great points.
Jerome, nice to meet you. Look forward to seeing you and hearing from you in the
future. Hope to see you guys in VR.
Definitely. Mags, do you want to pull someone up?
Sure. Let's see. Aniko Delaney.
Hi, thank you so much for having me up. I'm a new Bitcoin investor. I'm very excited. I got my hard wallet. I've learned how to upload. And one of the questions that I have is, I know my little bit of Bitcoin, I'm sure, is not hard to source, but when you read about people like Michael Saylor or Elon Musk and all of these, whether it's an individual or a corporation trying to buy hundreds of millions or billions of dollars of Bitcoin, where do they source that? So that's number one question. Then the second question, just to lead on, is, how quickly do you all see the momentum of corporations getting approval from their boards to start investing more? But I'm fascinated on the sourcing part. Like, where do you get $1 billion of Bitcoin? Where does that come from?
Multiple exchanges around the globe at the same time. Bitcoin's a lot more liquid than people assume. Like, these guys they're typically not just like jumping on the Coinbase order book and just like dropping $1 billion order in the middle of it. They're going through like OTC desks and maybe going through exchanges and kind of splitting it up around the globe at the same time and just staggering out their buys. So I mean, like, Michael Saylor was talking about it and just saying, hey, like, we would place buys here and here, and he basically gave a play-by-play of how companies can do this without, hopefully not moving the market too much in the process. It's a bit of a patience game, but I think we're still a little bit at the point where somebody can make a pretty sizable buy and not have too much effect, as long as they're careful in the way that they execute it.
Great. So so they're going to multiple exchanges. That makes a lot of sense, probably over a period of time. And like you're saying, yeah, not to move the market too much, but fascinating. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
No worries.
Aniko.
Was there a second part to your question there? Sorry.
Yeah. Just, as I know a lot of corporations need to go through board approvals to start, the discussion about investing in Bitcoin, how they're going to do it. And that just takes a long time to get through all of the discussions and approvals. So I'm just curious, and as you're all experts in this, are you seeing the momentum? We're starting to read more about it, but are you seeing the momentum really pick up where more and more corporations are doing this, testing it, starting small and then building, their investment in Bitcoin? So just curious about what trends you're seeing there.
Yeah, I think.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick point. If you actually want to see sort of the institutional traction, the Coinbase IPO, the initial public offering S1 documents, include data points around who has been buying Bitcoin. And in the last quarter, retail versus institutional being like, for example, companies that want to put Bitcoin on their treasuries. And we know that a few kind of large institutions like Tesla have bought using Coinbase. And this isn't just like we put on, millions and millions of dollars in one go. Like these guys are buying per minute, like large amounts per minute, like just consistently over 2 weeks time, for example. But what the S1 filing shows is that institutional is currently eclipsing like the dollar value of Bitcoin or crypto bought is eclipsing retail right now. So I think that's a really good data point to look at to see this adoption playing out.
Very helpful. Thank you so much. I'll take a look.
Ben, did you want to add anything in there before we move on?
Yeah, I mean, there was the only thing I was going to add is that when Michael Saylor first decided to pull the trigger, there was a period of time where they had to kind of get their ducks in a row. So, a few months before people start to execute on from the moment that they actually decide to pull the trigger is probably, or at least from the time that we find out about it. So my guess is, given that Michael Saylor just recently, what was it, last month, had his, or earlier this month, I'm not sure, had his event where he had, I think, 7,000 different companies along on his, Bitcoin event where he explained what he did and explained the ins and outs of Bitcoin. I think we'll start to see the fallout from that as we see like quarterly statements from a lot of these institutions, and I think we'll see even more at the end of Q2. So yeah, it'll come in spurts, but people are here and ready to go, and I think we're going to see some fireworks this year, in my opinion.
Yeah, Ben, that's interesting that you say 3 months, because it's been about it'll almost be 2 months here soon since the event. Not quite, but we're getting there.
I've heard that the shortest amount of time, was it 6 weeks that we heard from Saylor that it takes to ramp up for something that's like a more nimble company that maybe doesn't have as many directors?
Musk was fast. Like, if it was based on that tweet where it was like, is such a large buy even possible?
Yeah, but he owns, I think, the majority. I think it's situations where where it's not majority owned, it takes a longer time.
He owns like definitely 60 or 70% of the voting power in his company. So it just depends on the obviously the makeup of the board and the voting power. So if you have a very diverse board with diverse voting power, it's going to probably take a much longer to get all the ducks in a row.
Especially if you have to change sort of like investment mandates. Sometimes they have to, it's not just a matter of voting, but maybe you have to go through, well, these are the asset classes we invest in, and just making changes. The bigger the organization, the more bureaucratic, like government it can be. So I think, we'll see the smaller, more nimble companies move faster. And already we are seeing that. Like, look at Acre, which has launched a new arm recently, and different kinds of industries, like insurance. I think a lot of folks were really surprised to see MassMutual, 150 plus year old company of one of the most conservative industries starting to move into it. So, seeing additional data points like that, different kinds of investors like super conservative industries has been, really foretelling, and there's more coming.
Well, I think that was a pretty thorough answer. Nico, did you feel like you got the question answered, both questions answered thoroughly?
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
I really appreciate this panel. Thank you so much.
Definitely. I'm going to drop you down to the audience and bring someone up. Okay, let's see here. Who do we got? Jamie Shoot. Jamie Shoot, I'm going to bring you up. Just come up and tell us a quick fact if you want to, or just jump right into with your question.
Yeah, I had a question. I guess we're really bringing it back to the beginner section here. So I kind of wanted to piggyback off of what Mag said regarding the bull run that we're in right now. As a beginner, I'm looking at the graph of Bitcoin with fresh eyes. Of course, I really don't know much. And I'm thinking, okay, well, it might consolidate for a little bit because we just had this huge jump. I've heard this discussion about a bull run for a while. So what makes everybody so confident that this run is going to continue and not consolidate? I completely understand the scarcity of Bitcoin, and I heard predictions of maybe $100,000 for this year. But ultimately, what makes everyone so confident that this is just the beginning of this run?
In short, the money printing. But if anyone else wants to dive in deeper, that's my short answer.
I think one good data point that a lot of us look at is how much Bitcoin is on exchanges. And I'm trying to remember where who makes I think it's Glassnodes, maybe. I'll take a quick look somewhere someone can Google Glassnodes. There's some good sites out there that provide free data. And just looking at the last few months, there is just record lows of Bitcoin left on exchanges. And that's important too, because a lot of times it's not like the 18-ish million that's been issued right now is trading on exchanges. It's typically something like maybe 4 million worth of Bitcoin that's been trading on exchanges. But now it's significantly less because particularly, when these large players come in, they have a long-term time horizon. So, when Michael Saylor buys, he takes off, like 100,000 coins and puts it in long-term storage because he's not expecting this to be a long-term or short-term play. Same thing with Tesla. So they come in and they take it off. So there's less and less available. And when there is price swings, that kind of causes an accelerated price kind of impact because there's less just available for sale. And these are kind of strong holders. So that's one good data point that I like to look at. Secondly, if you kind of look at waves historically after the halving, so Bitcoin supply approximately every 4 years is cut in half. We've kind of seen historically, and of course, future nothing's guaranteed, but what we have seen is typically after the halving, there's a bull run that happens on average between 12 to 18 months. So, on average it's 15, but so sort of we look at history and we look at currently what's happening in terms of coin flow. So those are, I think, two good ways to kind of have that understanding.
I would say also, and again, we can't reiterate enough that really nobody knows what's going to happen, but we're just basing, I'm putting my money where I think is the best place for myself. And again, I'm looking historically and seeing what's happened after previous halvings and seeing what happened in 2013, which was a year after the 2012 halving, and then in 2017, the year after the previous halving there. Those kinds of that amount of appreciation in the year following. I mean, if we were to stay at 60 and not budge for the rest of the year, that would be like the weakest the weakest comeback after a halving that we've seen, and I don't think that's going to be the case for myself. So even when you said 100K, I'm like, why so bearish? So again, I'm not giving specific advice about this, but even when you look at last run, it went from 1,000 to 20 in the span of a year. In 2013, it went from double digits to 1,200 in the span of a year. And so even if last run or last bull run in the course of that calendar year was basically 20x or just shy, even
it would be a 5x only to 100K. So just to kind of put it in perspective, you know, I'm just kind of playing the odds here. And also I would say that in general, if you're just looking at, is it going to consolidate for a few months or should I get in now or all that? I would say that you're operating on too short of a time frame, and you should probably zoom out and think on a minimum of like a 4-year time horizon, if not much more.
Yeah, that's a good point. And then I think the last point that I'd add is just kind of paying attention from a higher level, like who is entering. So sure, okay, so yes, we saw, you know, Tesla, we saw MicroStrategy, but then again, it's those kind of, you know, very conservative institutional stakeholders. We have a pension fund in New Zealand that bought crypto, and that came to light just because people dug in. It wasn't like they're like announcing it to the world. You know, we have insurance companies, again, most conservative investors. So we're seeing so many different types of these bigger types of crypto buyers come in. So it's not, you know, that kind of buyer has such a bigger impact than, you know, a few retail consumers. And then also we heard recently from NYDIG's CEO, that sovereign wealth funds are starting to look into that. So I think, you know, maybe they're just initially exploring, but the fact that they are speaks a lot. So I think, again, zooming out, we just started this whole Bitcoin treasuries kind of what's the word, accumulation. If you go to if you Google Bitcoin treasuries, you can see who's bought so far and is holding it. But I think, you know, longer term, it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get comfortable with it. But it would surprise me if it stopped there. I think all of us don't expect it to stop there. So for the longer term, I think, you know, that's why we're so comfortable holding Bitcoin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to listen to that interview too, Jamie. If you want it, I'll DM me and I'll send it to you. It's a Ross Stevens, Michael Saylor interview, and that will really get you really hyped up. But I think the biggest things are that the macroeconomic environment where everybody is starting to realize, oh shit, excuse my language, this Bitcoin thing is starting to make sense with the way governments are printing money. You're getting institutions involved. And you're also having, I think for the first time, we're noticing miners. Miners are starting to try to hold the Bitcoin. They're instead of just selling it all. Yeah, exactly, right? It's incredible shift in the way things are happening. So some people are actually so bullish, Jamie, that they consider that this could be maybe the first time we have a super cycle or just absolute breakaway to the upside and outperform all of the models out there. So I try to stay on the conservative side just so I don't get my hopes dashed. But I think that 100K at this point is so bearish in a lot of Bitcoiners' minds. We're almost like there mentally already.
Yeah, you guys kind of got me there because you know, I'm a big believer in dollar cost averaging, and I definitely have an account for that. But you guys got me with like the short term because a part of me is thinking, you know, I'm gonna need some money this year, like really soon. So that's why I asked that question. I was kind of wondering, like, should I do this? Should I not? Should I just keep sticking with dollar cost averaging and just, you know, find my money another way? But yeah,
I'm just gonna toss in right there. Just really quick, yeah. Like if you're dealing with money that you know you're going to need in the short term future, even though we're all so bullish on this, you never know, right? You never know in the short term. You could have a black swan event where the price dips a whole bunch and you need a certain number of dollars, and then you need to sell way more Bitcoin than you were planning on. So I would encourage you to never, you know, use money that you know you're going to need right away for bills or responsibilities, and just stick with money that you know that you're saving and you're not borrowing and needing to pay it back immediately. For sure. Be careful there, because if you're long, that's great, but if you're irresponsibly long in a way where you're gonna need dollars, you could end up screwing yourself.
No, I definitely get that. Like I'm pretty comfortable with where I'm at right now. But I am thinking like short term, but ultimately my main goal is long term, and I'm just, you know, dumping dollars in monthly. So yeah, you guys completely answered my question though. Thank you so much.
Great. Yeah, great strategy, Jamie. Definitely everyone listening out there, stay conservative with the way you approach this asset. There's going to be a long time to buy Bitcoin. It's not going anywhere. Jamie, thanks for coming up. I'm going to move you down to you want to pick someone, Ben? I'm going to move Jamie down to the audience here.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, taking a look. Let's grab Levi. Come on up. Give us a fun fact and your Bitcoin question.
Hey guys, what's going on? I actually just joined here, and it says beginner Bitcoining. I was kind of just wondering, so if you don't have a full Bitcoin, is there an app that you guys use to be able to track how much your growth has been? Or is there a specific platform that I'm on or I'm missing out on? Right now I'm on Coinbase. And I'm just trying to figure out, like, for what I have now, if the boom does happen, how do I calculate how much that I've gained?
Yeah, I mean, you can like on an exchange, most exchanges will have a record of at what price you've bought and you know how much you put in and what that is currently worth. They'll have some sort of a record that you can export. I believe Coinbase allows you to do that, if I'm not mistaken. I personally don't use Coinbase. I'm in Canada, and there's other better options that I prefer. But yeah, most will show you that. When it comes to when you get it into it, I would recommend getting it into your own custody, because right now, if you're on Coinbase, you're trusting them to hold your money for you, and it's a good step to get it into your own hands eventually with something called a hardware wallet. But before I get too deep into that, if you have a hardware wallet, something like Ledger, I know that in their Ledger Live app, they actually track the depreciation or appreciation of your Bitcoin from the moment you withdraw it into your own custody. So you'll see, hey, you put in this amount of money, and then it'll have like a plus or minus percentage based on the price when you deposit it into your own wallet.
And is that a hardware wallet that you're talking about, or you're talking the plus or minuses on Coinbase?
So I'm talking, in that particular instance, I'm talking about Ledger Live, which is what you would use a Ledger hardware wallet with. But I believe Coinbase, they should at least have a record of what you bought and when.
I can see the record of what I bought and when, but my problem is maybe I'm overthinking it. I'm just looking at all the prices that I've bought in, but now compared to how much of a Bitcoin is, and then let's just say that it got the 120K. I'm just trying to figure out. I don't know. Maybe I'm overthinking.
Yeah, no, I know what you're saying, and so yeah, I don't know if Coinbase has like an easy aggregate of how much you're up percentage-wise based on your kind of dollar cost average over all those different buys. You may need a dedicated app. To be honest, I'm not sure what the best one is.
What I was going for, guys.
Is this for taxes?
No, it's not. It's honestly just out of my curiosity, because it rose so much and all the digits kind of confuse me. So, and I've searched on, I've just searched online for a converter, and I can't find anything.
All right, so I guess he's looking at the sats. Is he seeing it in sats? Is that kind of why?
No.
The decimal point?
It's you're trying to figure out, like, hey, I have put in this amount of dollars over this period of time. I bought this amount of Bitcoin at all these different prices. How many, in terms of dollars, how much am I actually up right now? Because it's not clear if you don't have like a single buy at a single price point. It's spread out, and so he's trying to figure out his actual profits versus money put in. So you can just add together all of the dollars that you've ever spent on Bitcoin, and then just take the total amount of Bitcoin you have and see how much that is worth, and then subtract how many dollars you've ever spent, and there's your profit.
Yeah, I think there are apps that maybe you can pull in APIs. I haven't used this one, for example, but I think I saw that, for example, Delta app. I'm not recommending any specific ones, but I did see that you can add stuff into your APIs. That said, if you do, a lot of times, just be aware you're giving up certain amounts of information. So some really don't want to do that. I also, for tax purposes, I kind of gave up and decided to use. I'm using CoinTracker, but then there's a whole bunch of other types of apps that do that. And the reason is if you're doing a lot of trades, it does keep track of, especially for Canada. I wanted one that follows Canadian laws, that helps me figure out adjusted cost base, so that I can file taxes, because it can get overwhelming sometimes. So there's things like that. But again, you have to give up some privacy, and or just download your for a more kind of safer way in terms of you don't have to give up any APIs data. You can download your transactions into services like CoinTracker. There's a few out there that allow you to do that just through an Excel spreadsheet, download and then upload in the manner that they want. So if you don't want to calculate it yourself manually.
Awesome. I appreciate all the information, guys.
Thanks, Levi, for coming up. Great questions. We got a bunch of people with their hands raised. Try to get to all of you. You're all in the queue right now. I see you there with your hands raised. Let's go ahead and keep bringing people up here. Let's do Zender, come on up. Ask your Bitcoin question.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me. Just wanted to also say thanks for doing what you do. Your passion for education it's relentless and it's inspiring. So probably don't hear it enough, but thanks a lot for having the access to you guys. It really helps making this transition for what a lot of people is a very intimidating, at least for me, kind of transition. I'm pretty early on, so really, really appreciate it. My question is, I got a Swan Bitcoin account after hearing a couple of you guys, talk about that. So that's kind of what I use to buy, and I have a software wallet that I get it sent to. And actually, on the software wallet, just browsing the other day, I saw there was an option for buying Bitcoin with Apple Pay, like using a credit card. And I hadn't really come across that before, and it almost seemed too good to be true in terms of buying it with a credit card and just sort of paying it off, and then all options I've seen kind of for buying Bitcoin have typically been attached to a bank account. So are you guys aware of that? Like, is there a downside to that I'm just not aware of, or is that something that...
Yes. Ben, I'll let you jump in, but I just want to let you and Mags and Breck, I'm just going to take about a 5-minute break to take care of something. I'll be right back.
No worries. Yeah. So Zen, one thing I would caution you on, and it may not always be the case, but first of all, if it's an app integrated into a wallet, then there's probably some sort of like a kickback for that, for the wallet that is hosting that plugin. And so that equates to probably a slightly higher fee for you when you do that. But on top of that, because it's going through a credit card, and this is the part where it may not be blanket true across the board, but often these things may come out as a cash advance depending on how you're doing it. And so in that case, it would be an increased interest rate on your credit card, and that can be a big pain in the ass. So I would just take a moment to look at whatever the fees are and look at what the fees from your card are going to be from that, and any implications when it comes to interest rates, because if that's the case, then yeah, it's worth the slight weight of dealing with a bank account rather than an instant credit card transaction, because with convenience comes cost.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
No worries. Hey, Mags, you want to pick somebody?
Sure. Let's see here. Oh, I've seen Usman around for a long time. I'm going to pull him up.
Hey, thanks for pulling me up. How's everyone doing?
Great. Welcome.
Good. Thank you. Just a quick question. So I'm
relatively new to Bitcoin. I started buying Satoshis and just have one concern. I plan on hodling, obviously long term, but my concern is when I do, use my Bitcoin, I'm concerned about the tax bill that will be due. So I started just doing some just high level research and looked into opening up a Roth IRA because I know that funds go into the Roth
Yes.
taxed, and then when they come out, it's not taxed. And then I also looked at I saw something that I couldn't wrap my head around at the time, but an IRA and LLC combination where you're purchasing for your business. So I was just wondering if I could get some your thoughts on that.
So I'll just quickly point out, I don't know specifically the intricacies of like the difference between IRA, Roth IRA, business versus like retail. That said, there some folks, and I'm doing this myself. So I have a portion of my Bitcoin in a fund that is in a tax-free savings account. Canadians, it works a little bit different. And the reason that I hold it there and I'm willing to, I understand that there are risks. It's a third party that's holding my keys. That said, I'm willing to do that because there is a tax advantage from holding, some Bitcoin, leveraging this kind of account, because, if I feel in the next 2, 5, whatever, 10 years, Bitcoin's going to move significantly. And if I avoid paying taxes, that is, for those of us that see value in that, it makes sense too. So definitely I encourage you to explore that if that's an option for yourself. And secondly, if you're just buying in most countries, that doesn't, you're not paying a tax right there. But if you are trading, crypto to crypto or selling it off, that's when you face a tax bill. Again, depends on what your country is, but that's usually how that works. So it kind of encourages buying and hodling. But there are, for those folks that aren't aware, funds, closed-end funds, whether that's Grayscale, there's a few out in Canada. My pinned Twitter post is the funds that currently exist in Canada, including ETFs. So Canada has several ETFs that have launched. It'll be a big deal when it launches in the US, but US folks can hold them in their tax advantaged accounts. It's just a little harder to access them. Usually you have to call your broker and instruct them to purchase it. But you're right, there are advantages. And for those folks that can take advantage of these types of accounts, special accounts, it does make sense.
Got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Was there anyone from the US that can confirm the IRA kind of stuff if there's more detail, or Becky, Dennis?
Not me.
I know.
I think Dennis is away.
That might be something that you bring up every Wednesday. There's a lot more folks for the weekly Bitcoin meetup. That might be a good question for that. There's usually a lot of people that are kind of, in the industry in the US that might be better able to speak to that.
Awesome. And that's in Cafe Bitcoin?
No, that is the Wednesday. I think it's at 6 p.m. 6 p.m. PST, so 9 p.m. EST. It's run by Alex and a few other folks. It's the biggest Bitcoin meetup there is, I believe.
Great. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. I'm going to bump you down. I'm going to grab somebody else up, Megs, and I can stick around for one more question, and then I've got to run. So hopefully Dennis will be back before that, but if not, then I'll stick it out for another few more minutes. So let's see. I'm going to pull up Harry Snellback. Come on up to the stage. Welcome. And once you get up here, let us know your Bitcoin question.
Can you hear me? My headphones have been having issues. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you there.
Cool. So I got a ledger in the mail, just bought it today. So I've been buying my Bitcoin through Cash App, which is probably noob. So I'm planning on transferring it over, but I was reading today that, people are recommending that I should buy my Bitcoins through local Bitcoins or something. So I was considering selling all my stuff on Cash App and then trying to find a local person to buy it from to just keep it anonymous. I was wondering, like, if I moved my Cash App Bitcoins to my ledger, does that mean that my ledger is like officially marked, kind of? So like if I were to then get rid of them and then try to get some local Bitcoins, untraceable sort of thing, that ledger would be sort of ruined.
No. So if your main concern is privacy, then yeah, you're gonna, if you're trying to do things like perfectly private, there's a few things that you have to consider. And I mean, also just be ready to make mistakes because it's so hard to be perfectly private. But yeah, so if you bought through Cash App, then those Bitcoin in particular are now associated with your name. At least Cash App would know that they were yours. And if anybody got a hold of that information through their records, then they could feasibly see, okay, well, those Bitcoin went here and here to these addresses. But it doesn't necessarily point to your ledger itself. It just points to a particular set of addresses and a particular set of coins as you move them around. So if you were to have your Cash App coins on your ledger, and then you got rid of those coins after the fact, and then you got some Bitcoin through local Bitcoins or whatever, somewhere that wasn't necessarily associated with your name for more privacy, the ledger would be in no way compromising your privacy at that point in terms of it having been tainted by previously having other coins. The reason that this is because every time you receive a transaction on your ledger, a new address will be generated. And if there's no previously identifying coins sitting on your ledger that might accidentally be spent in tandem with your, anonymous, quote unquote, anonymous coins, then no, there's no risk of that. The main risk would be if you left even like, a dollar worth of coins from Cash App sitting on your wallet and then deposited coins that you got from an individual that didn't have a record of who you were, and then you spent those coins together, thus combining them. It's kind of like if there was ink all over that $1 worth of Cash App Bitcoin, and then it like smeared all over your untainted Bitcoin that you bought from an individual. So it's more just where you're spending your coins, where you're moving them, what they're kind of being spent alongside, like combining Bitcoin with Bitcoin. So that's one aspect of privacy is, are the coins identified as being yours at any point? The other aspect is network privacy. And this is greatly improved by doing something called running your own node. So the main issue with using Bitcoin just on a wallet like ledger that is not connected to a Bitcoin node is that transactions can be, you're basically asking somebody else's Bitcoin node, do I have Bitcoin? Do I have transactions? And in doing that, you're kind of giving up a lot of information about yourself, your transactions, what you own, and your IP address. There's a lot of stuff there. So it's if privacy is important to you, it's probably a good idea to look into running your own node. I did a YouTube tutorial on how to do that. If you just search BTC sessions on YouTube and Bitcoin node, there's a couple good ones that are out there. Umbrel, UMBREL is really good. And another one is just called My Node.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check those out. And then I saw that Local Bitcoins has KYC set up now. Do you know if there's any local exchanges that don't have that in the US?
Check out BISC. It's online, BISQ. And I also did a video. I did a video on that. It's peer to peer. The privacy that you leak is just between you and the person you're buying with, if you use a method that concerns your bank account. So you may have the individual that you dealt with know, well, hey, Harry sent me money, but it's not like it's a business holding those records for 7 years. It's just you and somebody dealing with each other.
Okay, cool.
And just to note that like privacy, it's a continuous process. It means you can't make a mistake now. You can't make a mistake 5 years from now. You have to just have this privacy mindset, and it's something that you have to keep working on and making sure you don't mix your coins, especially if that's kind of the goal that you're trying to do. It's certainly not something that a beginner, I'm not saying it for yourself, but it's something for others to keep in mind that you can't go from I didn't care and I used to do it and now I'm going to do it. You have to keep things separate, and
I will say you can reattain some level of privacy, but it depends in what sense. Like one thing I would not advise doing is just lying to the IRS and saying I haven't had Bitcoin and I never sold it and I never realized a gain or anything like that. Because then, yes, if you were stupid enough to lie about it and then made privacy faux pas, that's going to be forever. Like that's there forever. But if it's simply, hey, I'm not comfortable with every merchant that I deal with also being able to see my net worth, then sure. Absolutely. You can use things like CoinJoin, like Samurai Wallet, or then you can implement things that make you more private and just don't give away the amount of Bitcoin that you hold to everybody that you deal with. So there's a sliding scale.
Yeah, and that's a really good point that you raise, Ben. Be careful about for just the simplest thing of don't reuse your address, because let's say you for some reason have 10 Bitcoin on one account. You don't want most people to know that you have 10 Bitcoin. You just sent it to, somewhere. You posted it publicly like, hey, I'm accepting Bitcoin donations or whatever. It's not good practice to make yourself a target like that, especially if you're kind of a little bit more public about it. But also just to point out, 2 Canadian exchanges, including Quadriga and now Coin Square, the CRA has all the data on every user. So it's like, okay, yeah, sure, you can try to lie, but they've got everybody that ever used those exchanges. So I wouldn't be surprised if the IRS similarly has data on a number of exchanges. You're gonna have a bad time if that's the main goal and you made a mistake at some point. So
yeah. So I mean, basically my strategy is I want to hodl as much Bitcoin as I can anonymously, just as like a hedge against everything. So I want to, like, what I've already bought it's already tied to me. So I was thinking about getting a cold card and just keeping it separate and then just getting anonymous Bitcoin and holding it there. Like, I don't know, in case the government bans it or some sort of off scenario, I just want to have like a life insurance policy with Bitcoin. And then I also have an e-commerce business where I'm going to be accepting Bitcoin, and I'm also doing some alt trading. So I'm probably going to keep that on my ledger and then just cold card the anonymous Bitcoin as the insurance.
Yeah.
Don't talk about it publicly with your name and face too. I mean, like, it depends on what you're doing. I'm just saying, like, a lot of people, like, they don't, like, I'm a taxpayer. Most of us are taxpayers, but anybody that's, totally against government, like, you do what you do, just don't, be careful. You never know when someone from government's paying attention.
Gotcha. This is all a hypothetical conversation that we're having here.
Cool.
Yep.
And your real name is Steve?
My real name is Larry, actually.
Awesome. All right. Well, hopefully we answered your questions.
Yeah, you did, guys. Thanks.
Awesome. Is Dennis back?
Yeah, I'm back. Wow, look at that. You're clairvoyant. No, I'm not back for long though, unfortunately, too. So, but yeah, you want to just keep. You want to do a couple more, and then, or do you guys want to keep going after I'm done here?
I got dinner.
I gotta
Yeah,
fully go. I gotta fully go soon.
Yeah, I've got to head out as well.
Okay, you want to do one last person?
Yeah, let's do one quick one if
Sure.
we can.
All right, rapid fire. Whoever comes up here, it's a quick one, but we'll bring David up, and David's coming up right now, and then we're gonna close it out. David, give us your super fast Bitcoin question. If you're gonna come up, I invited you again. All right, David, you're getting axed. Yasha, I just got you up now. Yasha, you want to come up here and ask your Bitcoin question? Well, if nobody wants to come up, then maybe we should just call it quits then. Julian, we'll give you a shot.
Hey
There
guys.
we go. Boom. Quick question, then we're gonna
Hey,
get
man.
out of here. But happy to have you up on stage, Julian.
Thank you. This is my first ever Clubhouse question. So my quick question is, are there any specific IRA Bitcoin kind of services that you guys recommend?
Keykeeper IRAs, good. Kingdom Trust, River Financial. But Keykeeper IRA will help you set it up so you can do self-directed IRA.
Okay. That includes Roths and everything?
Yes, definitely. Well, you're going to want to use a Roth for sure.
Okay.
Jeff Andrew over there, he's great. He'll take care of you.
Cool. Sounds good. That's it. Thank you.
Thanks, Julian. All right. Well,
awesome.
Ben, did you want to throw something in there?
No, I am not qualified to answer that question.
All right. Well, that's been the Bitcoin beginner Q&A for the evening. Thank you, everybody who tuned in. It's always a pleasure to be able to share this information with you. We love being able to educate new people in the space. Please make sure you follow Brecky. He put this together for us tonight. Make sure you check out BTC sessions and all of the amazing YouTube content that he creates. Mags, do you have anything to shill?
I don't know. Follow me on Twitter. I tend to tweet a lot about some of the more boring regulatory stuff, or like exchange traded funds, ETFs, that kind of knowledge. If you're I know that
expert.
a lot of folks have questions around that usually.
Yeah, I love a lot of the content you put on Twitter. So make sure you click on her profile, go to the bottom, click on that, and go and follow her over on Twitter. And then also, I'm going to be doing my deep dive room. So this is a beginner room, but if you're interested in some deeper topics, we're going to be debating on Wednesday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, and that's going to be under Cafe Bitcoin. We're going to debate the empty block attack theory, which is a old debate, but we're hoping to kind of close the door on it once and for all with Jimmy Song, JC Crown. Those are the two guys that are going to be helping us debate it against Mike and Joe Kelly. Be an interesting one. There will be a lot of your favorite maximalists there as well. So make sure you put that on your calendar. But thank you everybody so far who has come up to ask questions. And thank you, Ben, and thank you, Mags, and Brecky, if you're here. I don't know, but it's been a fun one.
Thanks for bringing me up.
Thank you. Had a blast.
See ya.